What's up guys, Nestor Restoration back with another restoration. So in today's video, I'm going to be fully restoring these Jordan 7 Pacific Blues from 2006, which is actually the year I was born. So this shoe is 18 years old, and for an 18-year-old shoe, these aren't in terrible condition. The only thing is that the glue dried up, so these are going to need some fresh glue and some paint touch-ups, so let's get into it. So I'm first going to start off by prepping the soles with acetone and cotton balls. I'm also going to be using a glue eraser, which helps remove as much factory glue as possible. So now that the soles have been prepped for the fresh reglue, I'm then going to start prepping the midsoles for the repaint. So here's how the midsoles look after they've been fully stripped. But before we can start the repaint, we're first going to have to reglue these air units. So for the glue, we're going to be using Bar Super Stick Cement. So I'm going to apply a decent even amount of glue onto the midsoles and the air unit. I'm going to wait about 3 to 5 minutes, heat them up, and then clamp it together. So after I re-glued the air units together, I couldn't help but notice there was some creasing on the midsoles. And as you guys can see, it's pretty bad and I don't want it ruining the repaint. So to remove the creasing, I'm going to be using a heat gun and go over the creases for about 5 to 10 seconds and then let it cool down. And now these soles are looking way better, and now they're ready for some fresh paint. So I'm going to be using Angelus paint to repaint the midsoles. So this is probably one of the most crucial parts of this restoration, only because I had to mix a lot of different colors to get the right paint match for these soles. It has to be very specific, so I'm going to put all the colors that I use on the screen. You honestly just have to mess around with it and keep mixing colors until you find the right match, but the main color I used was beige and cream. So to find the right paint match, it took me about 45 minutes, and right here I'm testing out the color, and in person it looks a little bit more darker, so I'm going to add a little bit more white to see if it can cool down the tone. So now that the color match is on point, it's time to repaint the soles. So of course, before any repaint, we always have to prep it up with some tape. So now I'm going to start by applying thin layers of the paint around the midsole. So after about 4 or 5 layers of paint, it's time to peel off the tape. So here's how the paint job came out. It came out looking nice again, so now it's time to add the orange paint. So once again, before we can apply the orange paint, we always have to tape up just to make sure we don't get any excess paint in any unwanted areas. So luckily for this color, I didn't have to mix any paint. It was just one color, which was Angelus Buttercup. So I'm going to start by applying thin layers of paint, and I'll make sure to be careful because I don't want any paint to seep through the tape. So here's how the orange paint came out. The lines are looking nice and crispy again. I did notice there was some touch-ups I gotta do, so I'm gonna do some touch-ups before I apply the blue lines. So for the blue color, I used Gamma Blue, Mist, and a little bit of red. The main color I used was Mist, and I added a little bit of blue and then like 1 drop of red. So now that the color match is on point, it's time to apply the paint. And here's how the soles look fully repainted. They're looking way better. So now I'm going to apply some Krylon matte finish to give it that factory finish look. It also protects the paint job to make sure it doesn't crack in the long run. So after the repaint is complete, it's time to move on to the gluing job. So I'm going to start by gluing the outsole to the midsole first, and then I'm going to glue the uppers last. So before I bond the shoes together, I like to put the soles together before I heat them up to make sure that the soles align properly together. So once the glue's been cured, it's time to heat them up and then bond them together. So I was actually getting really frustrated on this part. I had to take the soles apart and reheat them up because my lines were incorrect. So this part takes a lot of patience, but I promise you it's worth it in the end for the results. So the re-gluing portion took a lot of patience, but when you're a shoe restorer, that's the number one thing you need is patience, because you want to make sure the job is done right and the shoes are restored properly. So here's how the midsoles came out, and man, these are looking straight out the factory again. So now I'm going to apply some clamps and some rough areas just to make sure that the glue is properly bonded right. So while the midsoles are bonding together, I did notice that there was some scuff marks on the uppers, so now I'm going to take care of those by giving those a proper repaint. So before we can go in with any paint, we have to prep them. So I'm going to be using 1500 sandpaper. It's really smooth sandpaper, so it's not too rough on the uppers, and then I'm going to wipe it down with cotton balls and acetone. So for the color match on the uppers, I'm going to be using cream, beige, and yellow. The main color I used was cream. I added some beige and then a little bit of yellow. So after I mixed all three colors together, I noticed I added way too much yellow, so I'm going to add more beige and cream together to flatten out the mix. So once the color has been matched properly, I'm going to be using an angular brush, and I'm going to be applying small thin coats around the scuff. So once the scuff has been fully repainted, I'm going to be going in with some Krylon matte finish once again to protect the paint job. And just like that, the scuff is fully gone and these shoes are looking ready to go. So now it's time to prep them up and get them ready for the glue. So I'm going to be using cotton balls and acetone to remove any factory glue on the uppers. So now I'm going to be applying some bar super stick to the midsoles and then the uppers. So once the glue has been applied, I'm going to wait about 1 or 2 hours. So I'm going to kill time by watching some Breaking Bad. Now this show is arguably probably one of the best shows ever made, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Have you guys seen it? So after about a few hours, it's time to heat up the shoes and clamp them together. So applying the midsole to the uppers was probably the most tedious part of this restoration because it's important to make sure that they're lined up properly and you don't want any gaps between the shoes. But once the soles have been applied to the uppers, the last step to do is to lace them up, and that's a wrap for today's restoration. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe, and if you're looking for any booking services, shoot me a message on any of my social media platforms or email me and I'll get back to you. And thank you guys for watching.